So welcome to the 8th version of Introducing, and today we'll be introducing Leviatán, who are the LATAM champions this time, and obviously were not present at Masters 1 in Reykjavik, but will be going this time straight to the playoffs because Crew managed to beat NIP, and that means that there are 2 LATAM teams going to Copenhagen. They will be going straight to the playoffs despite not ever appearing at a major tournament before, and so my expectation for them is that they are a frisky playoff team. What I mean by that is, obviously we don't know who they'll play against at this point, so it's difficult to really say, how they'll really do, but I do think that they could surprise some. I think that if things go really well for them, that they could be that kind of, Crew from Champions or Zeta Division, where they finish a lot higher than maybe people were expecting, and the reason for that is that their style is a solid tactical macro style. What I mean by that is that they essentially, on all the maps that I watched them play, they seem to have a pretty good understanding of the map. They seem to have a pretty good understanding of, what their comp is good at on that map and what they should be trying to do on that map. They seem to just have pretty good plans overall of what they want to do on a certain map and using that, to their advantage. And so I do think that, maybe against less capable tactical teams, that they could, surprise some, with some of their ideas and whatnot, and could use that to their advantage quite a lot. And so, yeah, as I've put at the bottom, they could surprise some people, I think, because of some of the tactical decisions that they have. When it comes to introducing the team, we have Adverso, who is the IGL, who, as you can see, again, like a lot of IGLs, plays some initiators, but also a bit of Viper. You have Melsa, who's the primary controller player for them. Takolisha is actually the second player we've seen who only plays Chamber, obviously following in Ye's footsteps there. He is a full-time Chamber player for them. You've got King, who is kind of the secondary duelist, think like the Victor of Optic kind of thing. That's King's role. And then Shy, who is their primary initiator, and Owner is the coach. So you can see on the stats as well some very impressive stats. Obviously Takolisha being the Chamber player, the main sort of fragger, but also Shy and King doing very well in their own right. I mean, Melsa's cast, I think, is probably the highest at the tournament. It's certainly the highest that I've seen so far of the teams we've looked at. 80% is an extremely high number for a cast, and Adverso obviously is the IJL, also doing, perfectly fine. These aren't bad numbers by any means either. When it comes to watching some of their rounds, you can see some of their tactical plans really come into play. For example, let's take a look at round 7 here on Haven in the grand final against Crew. They're actually 5-1 down, but what they're going to do is very interesting and something that they did a lot, right? So they take early a lobby control there. A Prowler comes out, they shoot it, they're going to send a Boombot, you can see just here down towards short as well. They get this early A control, right? And so this is what they like to do. But this is something that they were doing often, right? Where you've just got the Omen holding towards a push towards C long. The Chamber is just holding towards mid here. And you've got these 3 players in here, their duelists and their 2 initiators. And this is generally how, they like to set up. This Prowler comes out, they just hide from it. And they've got this little double stack here as well, because they expect that Crew might get a bit impatient and might push. And this was a very effective strategy of taking this A control, holding elsewhere, and kind of waiting for the opening to sort of come to them, as it were. And it happens exactly here, right? They know that this thing is likely to happen. Kesnet goes pushing and dies straight away to King. And so then they start to come towards A. They formulate that plan. Let's go towards A. They Prowler down early to make sure no one's trying to react too early. They send the Chamber to pick up the spike, and he's going to just now hold with his op to make sure again that no one is trying to make a reaction as they start to come towards A. He gives the spike to the Omen and just holds and finds Mazzino as well. You start to see some of the layers to this, right? The Raze ult comes in, the Breach ult comes in response, but it's too late. It's already a 5v3. They get control of the site, and it's actually going to be a save from Crew here as they get the spike down. And this is the kind of overall tactical kind of play that they have, right? Pretty structured, pretty defined of like, okay, we're going to wait for this opening to come about. We're going to then exploit this opening. You're going to hold for this reaction, right? It all seems like pretty well planned out and was very well thought out in this round. Another example here for you is the last round on Ascent as well, where they're playing the no duelist DRX triple initiator comp, and here on the attack, where we've seen a lot of teams, even some of the best teams like Optic, really struggle with this comp on the attacking side. Not the same is true for Leviathan. They seem to have a very good idea of how to attack with this comp. Starts with early mid control. I've talked about this comp a lot, of how you're going to want to do a lot of splits with it because you don't have a duelist, so you don't have that space creation. So just like forcing it through one choke point isn't really going to happen. But I love some of their ideas because Leviathan, kind of more similar to DRX, you know, pretty much never did that, right? They never just tried to force it down A main. They understood that mid is really important, and they'd like to take mid. As you can see, we've got 3 players here already pushed pretty deep towards mid. They're going to send this Prowler down here. They send the KO nade there as well. They pop the KO ult, and in they start to come, right? So they take this mid control, they get the smoke up there, they start the split attack, in they start to come, right? The chamber comes in there, the second Prowler comes through, and they actually leave Shy here in this smoke pushed up, right? And they just have a really good idea because well, they know that what normally happens, right? What normally happens in this game of Valorant on Ascent is when you come and do these B splits like this, the defenders will often just fall back to the site like they've done here and basically make you take the site from them as well, right? And that can be somewhat tricky, especially with these no duelist comps. Sometimes teams can sometimes struggle. They can get to this point, but then struggle to get any further. But they have a really, really cool idea. Obviously, we've seen that Shy is just left there, but they've also just done this, where you see that they flash through this smoke and then attack the rays back here as well. Because they know that these players will have fallen back here, they decide, okay, well, let's target these players instead who might not be expecting it, right? And so they get the kill onto Mazzino there from just Shy hiding in that smoke. They get the kill on Kesnet as well, and then they start to come in now, right? Now they're in like a 5v3, so now these players on site are in a lot of trouble. They start to come in onto the site, they find that kill as well, they get the trade there, and all of a sudden we're in a 4v1. Really, really nice overall. Some really interesting ideas coming out from them. As you can see, they seem to have a very good understanding of what's going on. Shy finds the final kill and they win the match. And one thing I was really impressed with was their split attack side, which is obviously something that a lot of pro teams struggle with, is attacking this split map. And, you know, some of the setups that I've seen on split from some teams are, in my opinion, less than ideal. But I love the way that Leviathan went about it, right? Everything here just made sense, really. So they pretty much every round, or at least most rounds, had the Chamber and the Astra towards the extremities. And they had, again, their Duelist and their 2 Initiators going as a group to try and take the space in mid, right? Makes sense. But you would be surprised how many pro teams, even top level pro teams, kind of have more confusing setups than this, that you're like, what? Wait a minute, why is this agent here? But actually we got a Viper's Pit down here on 8, and you're going to see just the effectiveness that they have. They're running the old mech comp on split here, but this is going to be a really, really nice round overall. So they're just waiting for the Viper Wall from Crew to go down there to kind of make their move. You know, as Crew really had been struggling with this mid hold early on, you know, now they start, as you can see, to put some pressure towards mid. But they send out the breach stun. They're going to flash through this smoke here. They're going to stun as well to get through this smoke. So they push through that smoke with that utility. The Skydog comes out. They smoked off Heaven, as you can see here. And they get in towards vents here and clear this out. So they get the early mid control that they want. And now we're going to start to see them put a plan into motion, right? Because now your options are a bit open in terms of what side you want to go. And they decide to come to A. Obviously, Crew expecting them to come to B with the Viper's Pit here, but no, they decide to come to A. You see that the Astra, who had been pushed up a bit towards B main, starts to come back towards mid so that they can lurk when this starts to come in towards this site. You see that they just go quiet for a bit, right? Don't want to make any noise. Up comes King up the rope. He's just going to bait a quick shot there from Delzik, and then in comes a really nice stun. In comes an aftershock as well. Pushes the Astra off. In comes the Neon Wall we're about to see, and they get in onto site, right? Really, really nice just ideas overall. You see the utility use there. They put up this Neon Wall so that this Viper can't see anyone come across through there either. Really, really good ideas. You see we've got the Astra lurk ready and waiting as well, and this Neon is able to get much deeper than this Astra suspects and gets that first kill. And now this Viper is in a really bad situation, right? There's people on both sides of them potentially. They don't really know where to go. It's a difficult position to be in. And whilst that's gone on, our Astra has managed to just walk up into Heaven as well, right? So whilst that's also going on, we've got Kesnet here just flying through the air, getting his ult out. It doesn't actually hit them. Klaus gets one, but gets traded out, so that's the Viper spit gone, and then we end up in this situation. The Raze dies on site, and then the Astra on the Lurk is able to get the final 2 kills. Really, really nice, structured, again, layered. The ideas are there, the execution is there. You start to see that Leviathan, you know, have the ideas and they have the execution as well, and yeah, that's just a pretty solid team, particularly on this split attack side. They were very strong. My one criticism of Leviathan, though, might be that sometimes they can get, you know, kind of sucked into that kind of more brawly mentality where everyone just starts going like, oh, what is utility? Let's just swing for kills instead. And it looks a bit brawly, and it looks a bit kind of like, you know, a ranked game instead. You know, sometimes it can turn into that for them, and that's kind of when they're at their worst. And I think that this round, even though this is a round that they win, it kind of shows that example, right? So they're on the defensive side now against Crew, and they actually have a bit of a stack towards C. And the Breach actually is going to go walking up and you know, actually find the first kill, but then get traded out as he doesn't expect Mazzino to be there. But then you start to see, like here, right, the King just goes swinging back in to multiple people. He dies there, and it's not going to stop there. But the second thing I want to show actually is Shy. I want to point out Shy because he had an absolutely insane game in the grand final and played really, really well. He gets breach ulted there, but we're about to see Melsa do the same thing, right, where somehow Shy is actually able to manage to get that kill, but Melsa just goes swinging as well, right, completely on his own. His teammate is just been hit by the breach ult, so definitely isn't ready to come with him at all, but just goes swinging in and dies as well. But they do still manage to win this round. Again, Shy manages to ult, and so that gives, you know, a big distraction here for Takalisha coming in from behind, and then Shy's just going to spam into the smoke, find the first one, and then manage to get the second kill as well. Really nice from him, and he played very well, but you start to see, like, sometimes they can kind of just revert into that kind of just full brawl mentality, which obviously isn't ideal, and particularly on the Ascent game in this series, like, it was a very brawly game where perhaps things weren't as clean as they were on some of the other maps. And when we take a look at their map pool overall, you can see that there definitely are some strengths here to their map pool. Ascent, Bind, and Breathe are all like okay maps, but maybe not their best maps overall. And perhaps if you are a team playing against Leviathan, those are the maps that perhaps you'll want to be targeting. Fracture is normally their permaban. As you can see, they only played one game of it. But then Haven, I thought the Haven was pretty good. In the game against Crew, I'd say it was pretty good overall, but I think that these numbers are about right, where like they're above average, but I don't think they're like amazing at it. But you can see that their icebox and their split are very, very good indeed, and their split attack in particular I was extremely impressed with, because it really was you know, a lot better than a lot of other teams, I think. And honestly, there aren't too many teams that are good at split going to Copenhagen, so this could be an advantage for them, that, you know, they could potentially do some real damage on that map if there aren't a lot of teams who are comfortable on it. Coming to their agent picks, you can see they definitely do have some favorites. Not so much when it comes to the controllers, which actually are about even with what you might expect compared to everyone else in the VCT. But Chamber obviously being the big one, where they always pick Chamber, kind of similar to Optic in that sense, where Takalisha is always picking Chamber no matter what. So that means they don't play any of Cypher or Killjoy. It is always the Chamber. Sage, they do pick a bit, but not much, as you can see either. And then when it comes to the Duelist, again, kind of similar to Optic, where they're big on the Neon, as you can see, and not in on the Jet. They play a bit of Raze, and then when it comes to the Initiators as well, you can see, again, somewhat similar to Optic, in on the KO, pretty heavy, but this time also in on the Sky and Sova as well, as opposed to Breach and Fade. When it comes to their pistol and eco rounds, they are pretty good at all of them, as you can see, winning 64% of pistol rounds. That is pretty strong indeed. Obviously, I'm not like too familiar with how good the rest of the competition is in the rest of LATAM, so maybe that is partly due to this, but it does seem like their pistol rounds are pretty good, and given some of their kind of tactical ideas, I can understand that that might help them in the pistols as well, and even on ecos and against ecos as well, they're doing pretty well, as you can see. And so that was the introduction to Leviathan. I think that honestly, having watched this team, I'm kind of more impressed than I thought I would be going in. I think they have some pretty good ideas. They have some pretty good players. And honestly, I wouldn't underestimate them as like, you know, oh, whoever comes out of groups and gets them is going to get a free win to the next round. I do think that they will be a real test for whoever comes out of the groups.